my secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at Iba Pa. My name is Elaine Delalas, and I'm joined by my fellow hosts,
Ryan Carpio, Joe Bernardo,
and
Mike.
Producer Mike. Had it ready. Yeah. You guys ready for that? And we have amazing guests, two of which are here. Would you love to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm DJ Kuttin Kandi.
And I'm Kirin Macapugay.
Yay! And we have someone else joining us later, and when they get here, I will air horn them in, because that's what I do. And did you introduce yourself, Joe?
Yes,
We already did all the intros.
I totally forgot, because I'm too busy air horning. On this episode, I'm really happy that we're going to talk to a group of community organizers. Could you please share how you got involved with the community in San Diego? It's a really softball question. It's super easy, right?
How did we get? So this is Kirin. I actually grew up here in San Diego. I was born in Kalinga, Philippines, but Yes, I am full-blooded Igorota.
Nice.
Grew up here in San Diego, first in Barrio Logan and then in Paradise Hills, known as Southeast San Diego. I credit my very first time getting involved when, growing up in the 90s, we experienced a shooting.
In your neighborhood?
In my neighborhood. It wasn't a drive-by. It was a guy who literally got out of his car and came at us with a gun. Wow. And the next day was the first time at 17 years old that my friends and I decided to start door knocking. We went around to the neighbors and we just wanted them to know who we were so that they understood that even though this was a gang-affiliated incident, that we were not gangsters by definition. Mm-hmm. At this time, my parents differed. My mom wanted to move right away. She wanted to up and leave the community. Opposite that, my dad said, no, this is our home. This is where we belong and we're going to stay. And so I'm really happy that they live there to this day. But I credit that very first incident as opening my eyes to what my community needs so that things like this don't happen again. Because the young man who shot at us was also Filipino. Wow. Mm-hmm. But there's no ill will in my heart. There was no sense of how do we get back at him? How do we do this? But it was more like, what can we do so that this kind of thing doesn't happen again?
So you didn't want to do retaliation. You wanted to figure out a way to build a community.
Absolutely.
Were there any injuries during that?
Yes, but he's alive.
Okay.
So we all survived. That was our first start.
That was such an easy answer. It was so lighthearted and fun.
It's real.
No, but it's real. Yes.
For me, this is Kandi. I'm not originally from San Diego either. I'm from Queens, New York, born and raised. Mm-hmm. Moved here in 2006. But my organizing work started, of course, in Queens, New York. Similar situation in my own community where a classmate had gotten shot. And during that first year of my entry point to school, I experienced my first student walkout. And at that point, it led me, although at the time not being able to articulate the politicized entity that I was experiencing, be able to articulate that at a young age as a teenager, but served as an entry point for me to realize the conditions that our communities were facing. And so from that point on, becoming a hip hop artist is how I came into an organizer movement work, having a lot of mentors in my life. And then moving here after doing organizing work in New York, coming into San Diego and meeting really amazing folks here who've been doing the work long before me actually humbled my work that I've learned in New York City to realize the bountiful of beautiful, fierce organizers here that have humbled me to really see different ways of organizing than I was used to in New York. Coming from a big city, it's easy to be like, I know everything, but when you come into a place like San Diego where resources are not as thickly right on our hands like they are in New York, you come to San Diego and they have to utilize what they've got, and how to, even if they don't agree with other organizations or each other half the time, how do we come together and work in solidarity in the areas that we can do together. And so San Diego has really humbled me and taught me so much. Every day I learn something new here.
What kind of organizations are you involved with now? What kind of organizing do you do now?
I'm part of the Asian Solidarity Collective. Our work specifically is around addressing anti-Black racism, and we talk about that within our own Asian American community and how we show up for not just the Black community, but how we show up in solidarity with other communities. So our work is primarily talking through with our Asian American community and doing politicized education as well as awareness, but then also working across our communities and serving other communities.
You're being humble. That's just one of the things that you do.
Any others? Any other organization?
No, but you can keep going. Yeah.
So I am the executive director for Asian Pacific Islander Community Actions. We're a nonprofit that actually serves as a fiscal hub for several projects, including the Kuya Ate Mentorship Program camp. Philam Fest. Also now known as Barangay Cultural Arts Movement.
Nice.
Made in Paradise Hills, which is a new effort based in Paradise Hills where a lot of us grew up. And then Project Rio Collective. So prior to that, I worked at Operation Samha and I worked at Union of Pan Asian Communities. And a lot of it was what you can do under the realm of being a nonprofit. A lot of voter registration. We literally upped the numbers of API voters and Filipino voters between 2012 and 2014. But besides that, just on the free time without affiliations, we've done a lot of work around Save PQ Village alongside Kandi. We do work around different candidates who we support that we feel really push agendas that better benefit struggling brown and Black people. And I think a lot of the work that we do now really centers on those intersections of not only what do we need as a Filipino and Filipino American community, but how do we work with other communities so that they too are supporting what our Filipino American communities need.
Now, the Save PQ Village campaign, that was, I believe it was a residential neighborhood that was primarily Filipino. Can you talk a little bit more about that campaign?
Do you want to tell a bit?
We could do that together. We were both in another coalition together, Allies for PQ Village, where we supported the residents in uplifting their voices. So basically the location where they were at was in Rancho Penasquitos, which was the only affordable housing units left in that community. And there was about 900 residents at risk at the time to be left and removed, supposedly in their terms relocated from their location, and about a good majority of them were senior Filipinos that were relocated. And there was a fight to try to keep them there. A lot of the Filipinos there were fighting around it for more than a year and a half, even longer. A lot of covenants here throughout San Diego are at risk of losing their affordable housing units within that clause, about 4,000. So that's a lot. And PQ Village was one of them. And what that did, even though they ended up losing their homes, the vote that City Council had made, they had lost the right to be able to keep their homes. And so with that, it kind of really caught the attention that it needed to have happened, sadly at the expense of the Filipino seniors that were living there and had to forcibly remove and find new places to live. And a lot of the places that they moved to are not stable. A lot of them couldn't afford even $1,000 rent. So a lot of it's unstable because wherever they're relocating to, they can't afford. It's also far from their doctor's appointments, their churches. It was also just a community. When you're in a community like that, you want to be around all your people. So you just don't want to move to another location. You don't know anybody, especially when you're a senior already. So that's just a little bit of it. Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to put on top of that, what's really interesting about the community known as Penasquitos Village, or the locals call it PQ Village, the community itself, the wider district, is a largely upper middle class, affluent community. So that housing complex was really the only affordable. Now, we're not even talking about low income. There's affordable and then there's low income. Another thing that we tried to pass here in San Diego was Proposition 10. That was an effort that would have allowed cities in the area to just explore conversation about rent affordability, incremental rent control, kind of like what they did in Inglewood. So like in Inglewood, they found a way to, even if property owners have to increase rent, they do so in a way that's incremental and that just matches a property tax rise. I use it as an example because it's a way that we can still be responsive to the fact that cost of living keeps going up, even though minimum wage doesn't. But with what happened in PQ Village, the unfortunate thing, again, was that the majority of the people who live there, like Candy said, there are people who are retired,
Fixed income.
veterans,
A lot of disabilities.
fixed income, a lot of people who are disabled, and it was a largely community of color. And so, it's just really unfortunate. One of the major efforts we were trying to do was to at least find places for people to live, see if there's a way that when the new development comes around, because the new development is actually going to expand the number of units. It's going to at least double the number of units. But the city of San Diego only requires 10% of those units to be affordable. So in the new complex, which will have 600 units, only 60 of those will be affordable, whereas
You had a 332 at the time.
Exactly. 60 versus 332. But unfortunately, they said they couldn't guarantee or know who would get those new units when they come about.
Yeah, because with the provisions about it's a lottery that would get, so you wouldn't know who would get that 60.
So who manages that lottery?
That would be the, I believe, and don't quote us on it, but I believe it would be the developer. So a lot what we found, and we literally sat there with, and so many people canvassed door to door in the units. We had events for the residents to come out just to kind of see where they were, what they needed. I think the ones that really stuck with me are the Lolos who just decided we're just going to go back to the Philippines.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So they just up and left?
Yeah.
They had nowhere else to go. And you know what that really means, right? When you're 90, you're like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
They're just, I'm going to go back and I'm going to die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's essentially what they chose.
That's exactly what it was. And so that was just the really, really hard part about it all. And so, the good thing is that it did mobilize people. It helped people understand what was happening.
Yeah.
I think it was disappointing that there weren't more people in the area who did support it.
Yeah.
But that also goes to show you, how do people really feel about having affordable units in their community?
Because we heard that news, up in LA and stuff. So, that was kind of like northern San Diego.
Yeah. People are like, we have low income here? Yeah, you do. You do. That's the only way they were able to afford living there, though.
Yeah. And a lot of your work happens in like Paradise Hills, right? Southeast San Diego. What kind of challenges do you how do you overcome the geographic challenges of organizing, I guess, Filipinos and other people of color when it's so geographically dispersed?
Oh, that's such a good question, because the way the Filipino community, this is what's unique about San Diego. You have to remember a majority of the Filipinos who are here immigrated here via the military.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Bay and it's not like LA. We have a really different kind of political ethos.
It's more
with
like
the older
Oxnard.
generation. Yes, it's very much like Oxnard. A lot of people move here from Oxnard and vice versa, right? Yeah, I used to date a couple guys from Oxnard. But anyway,
Mike probably knows them. They're his cousins.
we'll talk about it later, Mike. But I think it is a geographic challenge, but at the same time, it's funny because we all have cousins who live up in PQ and Mira Mesa. Those are where the major military bases are. And that's why, so there's a good 30 to 40 minute drive between the two. I feel like down south, the socioeconomic level is a lot more blue collar and a lot more working class. But then you have East Chula Vista, where a lot of our generation, the professional college graduated generations, are now living. So that's kind of changing up the demographics a bit.
What is East Chula Vista? Is that like that
East
Otay?
Lake? Yes, Otay Lake.
Otay Ranch?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. It's the East Lake area.
Yeah, because I remember we were down here like a few years ago, and then I was staying with a friend, and I was like, "What is this neighborhood?" And it was called Otay Ranch.
Otay Ranch.
And I was like,
Utang Ranch.
Yeah, and then I'm like, aren't it? And then I kept asking Mike, like, aren't we in Chula Vista? But like, it looks nicer. I was way confused. I was like, these houses don't look like the apartments that my auntie used to live in.
Yes.
And I was just I was like, oh, so that's the young professional new Phil-Am, like where people are going towards?
Yes, the number of Filipinos and voters there is increasing exponentially too. Wow. Yeah, but I think I'll say this about San Diego: it seems like when you lead with a Filipino issue, people will still
rally
respond.
around you.
Yeah, we don't always agree on everything. I mean, you guys know that, right?
I mean, it's really hard sometimes when you're a smaller community because, like in New York, like you can easily not agree on something and like just be like, I'm not talking to that person anymore. Whereas here you just can't. Not to say that people do that, but I don't know. But here and specifically in San Diego, you just can't do that. You run into folks. This is the community. We're all we got. And so we've got to find ways to work with each other. When when PQ Village happened, we didn't all agree. But, we're trying to find ways, how do we still work with each other? Because there's so few of us doing that specific organizing work. So we've got to find like where we align, where we don't necessarily align. We'll have our arguments, we'll debate about it, but at the end of the day, we're all we've got. So we've got to work through those issues.
I think it's interesting that housing has come up now twice because we had another interview before this, and actually one of my closest friends, Jennifer Ganada, who went to ECSD, but is from LA Eagle Rock, has been pressing me because I live with Elaine in historic Filipino town, and the biggest issue for us right now is housing and gentrification. And in fact, Jen was a guest on our episode about gentrification in Filipino town. And so I think one of the things that we were trying to wrestle with in LA is, how do we get Filipinos activated and even interested in this idea that, we have housing struggles too. Oh, God. Especially in a place like Filipino town, which is also interesting too because a lot of the landlords and landowners are also Filipino as well.
Right.
And so there's an interesting dynamic playing out there. So I guess my question is, if housing is really a priority for a lot of communities, how do we actually make it like an active political priority as well? Because it doesn't seem like it's as up in the conversation, kind of like more, broadly than it is, than it should be, I think.
Just move to Las Vegas.
You guys, it seems like our answer is to migrate, and like Filipinos naturally just migrate out to other parts of the country. But we still have a Filipino town, and you still have communities down here. Is that hard to just get people kind of interested in something that they might not touch them, especially if you're talking about young Filipinos who are living in the nicer parts of like San Diego?
Well, it's about having really honest conversations with ourselves that sometimes overdue or that might not be happening, that needs to be happened. Like really the question of, in a politicized conversation, actually thinking back to what Martin Luther King says is like, having middle class values doesn't necessarily get us to the liberation we want. So we have to do a lot of education in our own communities. How do we show up for folks who are the most vulnerable, who are the most marginalized? And to not just have these specific idealized dreams to live middle class values, because the truth is, where is the middle class? Does it really exist? I know, speaking from my own experience, from my own family, that aspired for middle class values, but then ended up being broken in debt because of credit cards, because of all of those things, to try to aspire to live middle class life, a huge house, and then we lost it due to foreclosure issues. So, we need to have these really honest conversations on class in our communities, as well as the intersections of our identities, and who is the most vulnerable in that, and center them in our community work, and center them not just in our organizing work, but how we choose to show up for one another and really care about each other. And once we start educating that, I think people might start basically having some really genuine compassion, empathy. Those are the kinds of things we need. And to me, I really define it as really what revolutionary love is, the honest, critical conversations we need that may not be happening in some of these spaces, to be able to be invigorated to do this specific organizing work. Because the truth is, it is affecting us, but it's also this here that's also happening that people don't want to speak on, like, oh, we're having financial struggles.
Right.
Because they want to live up to the Joneses, everyone on their block. But the truth is, at home, you don't know that they're struggling. Like my mom kept it a secret that we were poor, that we were struggling, that we didn't have money. Next thing you know, we're broke. And then next thing you know, we're losing our home. So that's the kind of things that we need to start really being honest about and putting it on the table to talk about.
Yeah, you said it like perfectly in the keeping up to with the Joneses conversation, because like I've heard that from my own family for years, but like the difference is my parents just told me we were poor all the time.
I thought we were dirt poor all the time. I thought I couldn't afford mechanical pencils.
Yeah,
you know?
my mom told me that we were poor, we couldn't afford anything, only to be an adult now and realize like they were like legit squirrels, like squirreling it all away, and they're just kuriput, and I'm just like, whatever. Too bad I did not learn anything that they told me because I don't live that life and I am not as creeps. But yes,
I mean, to their credit, like at least they're financially stable.
Allegedly.
Whereas,
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, yeah.
Well, and you have to remember that's a generation that the cost of living wasn't as high before. In the 60s and 70s. In the 60s, primarily, the minimum wage was still
a livable wage.
It was a livable wage.
Allegedly,
it was responsive. Yeah, you can have one person still staying at home and one person working. That doesn't exist for this generation.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that we need to have with a lot of our like aunties and uncles and our parents, and that they look at us and say like, why don't you do what I did?
Right.
Like, why don't you get a job at the post office or blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, even if I did get that job at that post office,
not enough.
I would not be able to buy a home.
No.
I still would struggle to pay rent. I
Right.
would need to have like a roommate or something. Like the pick up from your bootstraps mentality, just that our community buys in, it's like,
That's
it's
a
not
myth.
real. It's a
It is.
That's
Yes.
exactly it. Yeah.
It is a myth, and it does a disservice because then you have whole generations that even have, bachelor's degrees, master's
Yeah.
degrees, and you have parents who don't understand why you're not able to
like, why don't you have
afford.
a job?
No.
Yeah.
So their frame of reference and what they know, what they lived with,
Yeah.
that life does not exist for us anymore.
Yeah.
But they don't know that. They haven't been educated with that.
Yeah.
So it is difficult.
And I would like to welcome our third guest.
Oh my God, I don't even have my breath yet.
Yeah, it's okay. Catch your breath.
I was like a student running here, like I'm late, I'm my
Late for
back's on.
class. It's your final. No, just kidding.
Wandering the halls. Like,
all
what's good,
good.
everybody? This is Ree Obana. Oh my God, I got horns!
Ready. I'm so ready with the air horns.
I got horns.
Oh, what was that?
I got horns.
Okay. Yes, you got horns. And so you just walked into a really great conversation
It's
about
deep already. It's deep.
been,
On housing and
on
class
housing
and,
and
like-
class, really light, easy topics.
Wait, hold on. You mean we can't with hard work and persistence, we can't be set free from the shackles of poverty, like Manny Pacquiao said?
Oh, she's ready. She's ready.
That just
She
that reminded me of like this post that I saw. Like, wait, with hard work, you can't free yourself from the shackles of
I don't
poverty.
know. I've been working so hard. I'm still struggling. I'm
Like, hard work doesn't get you out of poverty.
hard work doesn't
Right.
mean I'm not buying Mega Millions and Powerball tickets trying to win that $1 billion.
Right.
Spoiler alert: we did not win.
We didn't win.
I'm glad someone won.
Are you guys like that in LA too? Like, is it hardcore the
yeah.
lottery game?
Oh, yeah.
for
Do you
sure.
know how many lotto pools I was in this last round?
I know. I was going broke trying to buy lotto tickets.
I have like pictures from like the 80s or 90s of like lottery tickets like stuck in my dad's like garage, like he'll save them there, and just check the numbers, because it was old school. It wasn't like automatic, like it'll tell you like what numbers.
Oh, yeah. You got to
It was like laid it all out. Let's see if we get retired.
because, if you're not going to work towards equity and, justice, you just buy a lotto ticket.
Right.
Or you could do my plan, which was to win the lotto and then open up the community center in Filipino town and Filipino Foundation.
But
Part of your plan was
is
to win
winning
the lottery.
or find a benefactor that gave us a couple $1 billion.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Because miracles do happen. Dreams do come true.
Angel investor.
I'm still reading because miracles do happen and dreams do
What are you
come
reading
true.
there?
What is this post?
It's a quote that Manny Pacquiao put up about miracles do happen, dreams do come true. And again, for folks who are listening, like I'm not shitting on the fact that we're successful, right? It's that whole bootstrap mentality, that whole American individualism that if you migrate here to this country, the land of the free and opportunity, that you are going to move up the ladder of mobility and you are going to be that Filipino that's going to make it and never turn your cheek, never turn back. And looking back at the root problems that still exist and are going on in the Philippines that had forced us to migrate here to begin with, right? Yes. So, sorry, I mean, I just wanted to...
I love it. Coveted hat.
Yes,
I like it.
You know what I'm saying?
Welcome.
Now you know why we're all friends.
It's all connecting. It's all connecting.
So, did you grow up in the southeast side too?
I did, the southeast side. I like that.
That's what
I just told them.
us. Southeast
They just got
side.
schooled real quick.
I've never heard of that. This was my learn something new.
So did we go over like into like parts in like LA and that area?
We didn't. You don't have to, but
Yeah.
If you want.
if you want to,
It's
you
similar
can.
to like Echo Park. So yes, I was born and raised in Skyline, Southeast San Diego, Paradise Hills Community, National City.
Yeah.
But I moved to Bonita. So I don't know what the more affluent neighborhood would be like
Mike, do you know this?
right next to wherever, Echo Park would be,
Los
Eagle Rock.
Feliz.
Okay, well, it's
It's like
similar, whatever.
it's like Atwater too.
Oh, it's like you, right?
Atwater.
My family's in Atwater.
Hot
Got
water.
it. Right. And I embrace that part of my journey in migration because that is exactly what the U.S. Navy and being a registered nurse had afforded my family at one, in our journey.
Is your dad from the Navy as well?
Correct.
As Mike's dad?
Yes.
We had this conversation that
Yes.
San Diego is similar in political tone to like an Oxnard, in that the Filipinos who come to this region come here from the military,
Right.
which comes with it
Right.
a certain set of values that
Political
leaning or
Sure.
interests,
Right.
which is, it's going to be right. That, I mean, not like right as in correct. I mean, right as in right leaning.
Right leaning.
And the way we've had this conversation, y'all,
That was right. That was hella right. That was like, y'all can't see, but I was like reaching to the right.
the way you organize is obviously like it's to the left.
Yeah.
Not very left of, or very left of center. So how is it that you get folks involved in your community? Because like you were saying, it's so small in that like you have to organize with folks because the resources are so small. That's what Kandi was saying. So I just wanted to ask, like, how do you reconcile these opposing political views, I suppose?
Can I fire off right quick?
Go for it.
We'll go down the line.
So I want to acknowledge though, right, for folks who don't know about San Diego, this is the home of all arms of the Department of Defense. So let me just frame that for you, right? All arms of the DoD, National Guard, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Army, U.S. Navy. Am I forgetting anybody?
Lots of arms.
So arms, lots of arms.
More than two.
Know what I'm saying? So
Octopus.
correct.
Pusit.
Right? so the history here and the makeup of Filipino Americans in this city is coming from that background, right? And so if you can imagine, and if you know about colonization and the power that the oppressors have, and being that benevolent Filipino, right, that's so very thankful for the opportunity to even be here, those are the roots and the stories and the legacies, and we are the products of that, right? So to even oppose that or think progressively, or to even dig deep, because I want to touch on that, dig deep and figure out like what your roots are, and to cause a ruckus and to shake shit up, like it's almost it's a disrespect, right? It's like, how dare you? We're here. And I want to say that was also a part of me moving out of San Diego, because after I had graduated from UCSD, I was like, I got to get out of here, man. This is like, I was growing politically, right? I was finding out who I was and what were the reasons why we were here. And I started to get angry, right? And I started to learn more and learn more. And what were the root evils that were happening in the Philippines that caused them there? What was the treatment, that Filipinos had in the military? And so, and that's when I moved to New York and found a really progressive family there, a revolutionary family there. And I've been back for the past 10 years and linked up. I mean, again, this is very abbreviated, but
were you with Ugnayan?
I was.
Nice.
Ugnayan ng mga anak ng bayan, like that's the whole.
Oh, I did
name.
not realize
Yeah.
that was the whole name. I just know
I
Ugnayan.
was.
She's the origin.
That's the shorthand that I learned.
Origin.
Yeah,
You founded
Ugnayan.
it. You founded it.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Have you met with some of them? Rhea,
There was somebody.
Annalisa,
Was it Annalisa?
Al.
We work with PwC,
Yeah.
the Filipino Worker Center in LA, and there was an action once where somebody from Ugnayan was visiting their home in LA. So we
Yeah.
were all together and we met with her.
It was Al. It was probably Annalisa
yeah,
Cabales.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
That's my
it was
karma.
her.
Look, I'm getting goosebumps.
yeah, and we got
was
to
here
meet
for a
her.
while,
She was here
actually.
for like
Yeah.
little bit, and then
Yeah.
she moved back.
Yeah.
So whenever I think of New York, I think of Ugnayan.
Yes.
Like that's
And then our friend Kim and
Our
like
friend
some,
Kim.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and Leah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Leah,
Yeah.
Kim
So,
Baglieri.
yes. So I mean, and we did work with the domestic workers there too, Damayan. So
Yes.
yeah. So that, I mean, that's kind of like what I'm working with, right? So I mean, going back to like organizing, coming back here, right after experiencing that, like y'all already know what that is, right? And coming back here, it was really difficult to, and I joined KMB. So it was difficult to continue that work down here when, again, the particularities, I think, of youth and the Filipino American young adult here is that they can't really relate to Filipinos who are living in poverty or the need to join that struggle to fight, U.S. imperialism. It's just, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And
there's a complacency or comfort in like their middle class stories that they're
Correct.
familiar with.
Or their middle classness was afforded by
Afforded by, yeah.
U.S. imperialism.
when poverty is not in your face, right? Like, why should that? Again, when you are separated from the masses, right, and from the true struggle of our people back home,
Yeah.
we are privileged here, right? So that's the struggle, I think. And so really here, I think in San Diego, the emphasis has been about, who are you? What is your history? Filipino American history, which is all a part of that process, right?
Yeah.
I don't deny it. I welcome it. I embrace it. And so, and it's also doing cross-organizing with the most marginalized communities in Southeast San Diego, right? So, and that's the work that we're all involved in as well, so.
Candy, do you want to add to that?
I mean, it's something that, all of the above, right? But something that really stuck out for me is this, like, idea of shaking things up, the fear of doing that. And I have fear all the time. I don't want to always rock the boat and get in an argument with somebody. But even today, when I had to speak somewhere, I'm like, this is a place where I need to say the most uncomfortable things, but it needs to be said.
Yeah.
And to be absolutely unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
Because that's who needs to hear it.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm saying the things that, and it's that idea of like, we have to keep this genuinely quiet, like, let's not rock the boat kind of thing. And, keep things secret, let's not air it out.
Yeah.
But when doing that, it's going to continue to reinforce this respectability politics that keeps on coming to play of basically uplifting the race to attain whiteness.
Yeah.
And for me, even when it's so hard for me, even when I doubt myself, because I always doubt myself. Today I was like, should I say this or should I not say this? I was like, F it, I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
You should say
it.
it. You should say it.
Our bonus episode guest with Jose Antonio Vargas, he mentioned that with it's like, have those tough conversations. Like, if you can't have those conversations with your family, then why are you saying that you're doing this work? So like, those are the toughest things. And I feel like that's something that I'd like to impart to the audience is like, when you see all these folks who make all these like statements, like it takes courage to say these things out loud, right? It takes courage to like tell these titas and these titos and whatnot, and like that you're going to stand on the side of justice, but at the same time, it's like they don't want to hear anything you're saying. They'd rather be like, just look pretty, just wave your, just smile and say like Merry Christmas or whatever it is at the whatever thing. You know what I mean? Like even the veterans marches, sometimes I think the students don't understand that they're there for an actual reason, but they want to be there to like show up and show out. But it's like, no, there's a reason why this march exists. It's because, someone's Lolo didn't get their citizenship, or they didn't get their like benefits for 78 years. Like, a lot of our relatives got denied. And so don't like come here thinking like, I'm gonna look cute. But
Can I take that example that you just, because a couple of weeks ago we had the Congressional Gold Medal event here for the World War II veterans. It was one of 70 that had been happening throughout the nation. And here's the thing, I appreciate it. I have to say it because my own Lolo, we were there. We were one of their recipients. I know Ree's grandfather too was also affected. Like 250,000, right? Of our veterans, World War II veterans who died waiting for those benefits. My Lolo
died or dying.
Dying. My Lolo died waiting for it. Asked for his dialysis to get paid for, got denied all the time, right? So I appreciate the efforts. And here's the thing, I think when we look at issues that are affecting our community, at least, when you cut through the shame and the embarrassment and you just put it in their face that, look, this is our people. And no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, our people are suffering. And you have a son or a nephew or a daughter that tried to commit suicide. You have, a partner or spouse, your wife or husband who's going through issues, you're filing for bankruptcy, your Lolo didn't get benefits. All of us there are these common threads that I think now with our generation, because we're not ashamed to talk about it, where I feel like we're carrying the older generations with us, even if they're reluctant to be carried. And they're understanding that these are issues that our generation and the younger ones aren't going to accept. We're going to have to talk about these things, and we're going to have to actually fight to make them happen.
We're not going to eat their sorrow.
We're not.
And then just like shit out happiness.
Well,
that is not what this life is for.
And we're full. And we're already full. So we don't have room.
I don't have room. I've been eating carne asada fries for the past like hours. So there's no room for sorrow.
But like the congressional medal thing, right? Even though that's a symbolic thing and everybody's like, oh, that's so great that we're getting that. That's still a civilian award. That doesn't come with benefits.
Exactly.
It doesn't come with citizenship.
Like I would think my Lolo would have appreciated that medal. That would have been nice for him to receive.
Sure.
But I think he would have appreciated more if like he could have brought over like my cousins over to this country.
Absolutely.
And when Kirin had posted about that, I think, I said, well, when did this happen? Like where, and shortly after I remembered. And I think it was an email or a posting that I had glossed by because I said, fuck that. Because, and I'm looking at my comrade, Elazar Javier is here, y'all, from Kampeon, formerly known as Pinoy Apparel. But I want to shout him out, though, because we did, in the organizing work that we did with Justice for Filipino American Veterans with JFAV, which also I know you guys probably mentioned it, but the march is tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
18th March. And I want to say, and I want to share here, is that how defeated I think I had felt in that whole movement in progress, right? I think we all grew up in that, right?
Yeah, I was one of the lead organizers like a decade ago.
I didn't realize
Yes.
you said 18.
With Kiwi, with Jack, with all of them.
Like it was like for the 4th through 6th like marches as one lead.
So with Eric Tondok and all of them, and Kiwi and all of them. So
well, it's early. He was with the like Ernest Tamayos.
Oh, okay, yeah, Ernest.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I think I just want to share that when you don't, For us, it was like, we tried to lobby, we tried to organize, we tried to march, we tried to educate, the students at, even at the college level, right? Because the youth they're the ones at the forefront who are going to bring this. That's who we were. I feel old because I'm like 38 now, but I can, in my early 20s, 30s, like that's the work that we were doing.
18, and I just realized I think I've been at almost every one.
See, right? And so when you look at the congressional medal, it's like, this is exactly what y'all's plan was, because you did not want to. My grandfather did not get the benefits because the requirements that they put in to prove that you served in the military he was a Filipino guerrilla in World War II, required an official document, right? And if you guys remember, there was a fire that had happened, which burned a lot of the records. So there was no modification of what the requirements were, right? Not even considering a modification to what was required in order to be recognized to receive a benefit that if you were residing in the Philippines, you had you received the full quote unquote benefit, but if you were in America, you received half of that. And we were fighting for it because my nanay was still here, is still here, and she doesn't get those benefits. So again, when we look at policy, like that is exactly so we're now accepting this congressional medal, which again, I don't shit on, because they're recognizing their service, and, everyone who's served, that's why we're here, right? That we understand what this march is about tomorrow, which is justice delayed is justice denied, right? That, we're still acknowledging there's no benefits, yet other waves of other wars, other folks have, gotten these certain benefits, right? So I don't know. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents on that. Sorry.
I feel like the theme has also been kind of, the powers that be are always going to say, just shut up and be thankful, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of, right. I wanted to kind of touch upon like your activism. And I think there's a lot of folks who look at activists as agitators, as disruptors. How do you keep that kind of mode and maybe on your strategies on how to keep young people engaged and to Girly's words, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep activism like
those are Girly's words?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Because we are agitated and we are angry.
I walk into a room and they're like, "Oh, here she is, the troublemaker." But I still sat on state commissions. I was appointed by the governor. I've been appointed by the mayor. And I think that even though there are people who are uncomfortable with the positions we take, I still get respect for it because somebody has to do it. And I don't just agitate. I also celebrate when it's time to celebrate. And when we do good, I'll celebrate that and I'll sing our praises. But when we're struggling, somebody has to fucking say something.
Call it out.
You have to call it out. And I think, I'm really honored because for all three of us, there are young people around us all the time who come to us for mentorship. We haven't even talked about that. But that's a major thing that we need in our communities, not dictatorship, because a lot of people take the role of mentoring and then we use it to tell people what to do. I think it's important for younger generations to define what they need to do for themselves their way. It's even different just from when we were growing up. These younger folks have a different environment, and I respect that. And I think it's important that we just take what we can. We guide them when they ask us to, even the ones before us or older generations. When they ask us to come out, we can still try to come out for them. But at the same time, we have to make room for those spaces where we're not all going to fit and still be okay.
Don't have founder syndrome and stay forever, or take advantage of the youth and their passion for actually wanting for the work for the community, because then you kill their spirit, and that is one soldier who no longer walks with us.
And I wanted to say, we can always be thankful. I didn't mean to not be thankful for things, but doesn't mean we have to be complacent, or it doesn't mean we always have to be satisfied. But that's all.
Did you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, to me, I'm proud of always being an agitator and angry. To me, I think of anger, and the two psychologists in the room, counselors in the room can verify, in terms of anger. To me, it's different layers of social workers, counselors, different layers of emotional feelings. There's different layers of feelings. And to me, anger is different layers of feelings. And I always speak on this because when I'm angry, when I'm enraged, it's telling you that I'm hurt, that you've hurt me, that you've harmed me. This is what's happened. I'm asking for folks to show up for me. And I always go back to Assata Shakur's quote that I believe in the fire of love and the sweat of truth. And to me, when you're angry, you're speaking that fire of love and the sweat of truth. And it makes people uncomfortable. And if it makes you uncomfortable, then good. I want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to feel what I'm feeling. I want you to experience the pain that I've experienced, because that tells me that you have some kind of understanding, a little bit hint of what it feels like and what we need to do at this point. And if you don't get it, that means you're lacking a sense of compassion and love. And so to me, I like being angry. but because it also means that I love passionately.
Anger is your love language.
Yes.
What was the question again?
So it was like, how do you keep it fresh, right? Because there's so much, when we see any kind of oppression, repression, right? When they try to silence our voices, or when we speak on injustice, it is our job, I feel, right, as Filipino Americans here in this country to arouse, agitate, organize, and mobilize, right? That is the function, I feel like, of a youth organizer, I think an activist, right? And I think that's how I define, these women here that are sitting with me. But I also want to talk about the way that, Filipinos and Filipino Americans, the way that we stay refreshed, the way that we keep this movement alive. And if you look closely at the movement in the Philippines, the cultural revolution and the cultural arm of this movement is fucking deep and it's strong, right? It is not separate from the organizing, right? And I think we all know this sitting at this table, folks listening in, is, sometimes when I need to pick me up, I'll pull up bamboos, pray for the devil and butterfly knife and look in the mirror and, I'm on my Issa like... Y'all can't see, but my hands are like.
Can you change that and be like Rocky instead? Because
that was my next quote too.
Because I have this issue with Bam right now because we've asked him to be on the show multiple times, and I'm gonna tell him no from that one.
Really? Why?
Just kidding. He's our brother. But
okay.
She just talks mad shit to him on text all the time.
Really? Well, I mean, we're Rocky's too. Rocky's Revenge album that just dropped. Probably, in my opinion, her best work thus far. Rocky's Revenge. My daughter will hop into the car and Frankie Simone will say, like, can you play Auntie's song, Rocky's Revenge? I'm like, yes, let's turn it up. But I want to acknowledge what music and hip hop, hip hop raised us, right? And so when we see artists who are cultural workers in this movement, that goes hand in hand with being an agitator, right? Being an artist, and what I'm gonna mess up her quote, but the duty of an artist is to reflect the times, right? She said it best. And I feel like, when we talk about art, it's not art for art's sake. It's art that serves the people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's how we stay refreshed, is when, pop culture, hip hop or music or art or events are always hand in hand and anchored with the artists that are, a part of the organizing work. Mm-hmm. So
I think podcasting is an art, so we are a part of it.
You are. This is cultural work.
Yes, it is.
This is cultural work.
Good job, guys. Good job. High five.
Five.
Where's your horn? Where's your horn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Here.
horn.
Where's my air horn?
So
cultural work.
She's
we could talk for hours, but we gotta get going. I do have a last question for all of you: is what spot or secret spot in San Diego that gives you life? Any one spot.
It won't be a secret anymore if they say
it'll be a secret.
Okay, fine.
It's only for us. It's just for us.
Me life.
Us and everybody
It could
nationally.
be food. It could be just a place, a park, a neighborhood.
Place that you love going.
So there are two spots for me. I grew up, when we first moved to San Diego, I lived 1 block away from Chicano Park.
Nice, yeah.
And it's there, when you talk about San Diego, look, I'm not even Chicana, right? But there's so much history there, and there's so much history there. And it's such a great example of what people can do when they set roots and chain themselves to tractors and fight for their neighborhood. My other two spots, I have to say, are Snoy's in Paradise Hills and Project Rio in Paradise Hills.
We tried to get them the interview, but they're in the Philippines right now.
Oh, J-Rail and Diana are in the Philippines. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're actually on the board for Made in Paradise Hills. I'm the chair, and Ree's on the board
Nice.
too.
Awesome.
So I love those spots because they're community resident owned, driven. When we talk about gentrification, right? One of the ways you can still have these businesses and this flourishing in local neighborhoods is to make sure that it's people from the communities who are owning them, working in them, running them. Project Rio was literally started by 6 families. Snoy's was literally started by a family. Yeah. We didn't have a coffee shop in the neighborhood. I mean, that's how it's like. We didn't have a place to go. And to this day, they still struggle to get business loans because nobody wants to give loans to the businesses. And then, it was literally on the news recently how they couldn't even get a loan for the espresso machine.
Wow.
But regardless, we're making it happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Then that's true power of the people there. It's changing and forming neighborhoods. It's having these holiday events on the street where people used to get shot and killed. And now we can have community events there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most beautiful freaking thing. And I love sitting in those spots because that happened in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And to get to see
You
that
got to
change.
witness the change.
We got to witness
and
it. We got
were
to be
a part of it.
And I mean, I can't
Blaze that. This woman right here.
Hey, you too. Just last night, I have to say that there's an organization called ACE. They were the forefront on Prop 10. That was the proposition I was telling you about where we're trying to do rent control. Their office got burnt down last night.
Oh, damn.
We just got the text this morning. I thought this is going to be so perfect when we go into this segment. Because even as we make progress, there are still people who are going to try to stop us. Wow. Right? Stop us in our tracks. They not only burnt the office down, they took out the T-shirts that the volunteers wear, put them on the lawn and torched them.
What?
Wow.
And these are community partners that we worked with before. Just last night. I woke up to that text.
People who fight for exactly what you're talking about, for folks to have a livable wage and to afford basic needs, right?
Yes.
Shelter, housing.
So when I sit in places like that, it reminds me that we've got a long way to go, but we've moved the dial.
Kandi?
Oh, there's so many spots, but I would say with spots that aren't here anymore either. Like Lily's Bakery, Filipino food and bakery that used to be here. And I speak on that because these spaces like Project Rio, like Snoys, are what sociologists calls third spaces.
Yes.
And it's really a hub of where people and community gather. And Filipino food and bakery was one of that, and I was always there. I always hung out there, always ate there, and now that location doesn't exist because it couldn't.
She operates Archipelago now in the Bay.
We know
So you know, just want to make sure.
Lily is a homie.
Yes.
Love you, Lily.
We recorded there when we went to the Bay.
Yes. And she was one of the co-founders of Camp. So, I mean, I really want to uplift that, when spaces close and what it does to the community and finding a space to really gather. That's why, thankfully, there is a Snows that exists and a Project Rio exists, but we need more places to come together and gather. But then we also, where I find also in community spaces, are places like our community meetings where I find liberation and hope through those kind of spaces. And then I think about also as a DJ, the music stores that no longer exist or hip hop spots that no longer exist, like Access or even like Cross's old store, Armory. So you think about the spaces that I miss that we don't have, but we find in our hearts and then we continue doing. So hopefully, and then you have spaces where I just visited yesterday because I could never get a chance to visit all the way up in Oceanside, but then it was closed when I got there with Schoolyard Records. You know what I mean?
Shout out DJ Kid Riz.
Yes, DJ Kid Riz. So I mean, like, we have to be really finding ways to support these businesses that exist, these independent businesses, because they're thriving and they're also creating those third spaces where people can gather, inform one another, create awareness. That's what Fat Beats did. It was a space to really bring folks together through hip hop to express, to challenge one another, whether it's on an MC battle or a DJ battle, but also a space to bring some kind of political awareness. So those are the kind of spaces I miss.
Oh, Pillars. Can you guys mention Pillars?
Yeah, we got
that was mine.
We have to. Okay,
that was mine.
We'll leave that to Ree.
I want to make sure.
Yes.
Edit that me out.
Don't edit it. Don't edit. This is us.
So Pillars.
Yeah. So because we don't all follow rules, I have two spaces actually. One of them is the Pillars of the Community, and this is an organization and a nonprofit that's near and dear to our hearts. This is where you find Filipino American organizers like us organizing arm in arm with our Black brothers and sisters, our Chicano brothers and sisters, and it's a place and a hub, also called The Spot. They have a separate area attached to Pillars of the Community that's developing now, and on the walls are decorated with just the most revolutionary progressive art from artists here in San Diego. This is an organization that's fighting for the rights and welfare and justice for the most marginalized communities, and that would be the Black community in Southeast San Diego. And it's really important to honor that whole intersectionality of that our struggles are one. right? And so we can't, that's how I think, when going back to your original question about, how do you guys organize here? That's how we organize. We link up with, folks who are in solidarity and understand our, our struggles as well. Second, I would say Tuma Park in Paradise Hills it's a hub, and it's a place where the senior, and not just seniors, because there's actually, I don't know if you would call them seniors, but majority seniors, Filipino seniors, our elders basically would gather, and it's like a palenque. They sell the vegetables that they grow. You might even find an umbrella, socks. I mean, again,
Salon pa.
right? That, Tiger Bomb. Like, this is an extension of where we come from, right? If you go back home in the province, like you go to the palenque, and like folks are set up. They're setting up shops selling their goods, right? Even from the goods that the balikbayans like brought back from, the U.S.
All
right?
the things that Mike's mom's gonna bring,
right?
on
All the
trip.
corned beef, all that. And then lastly, I would say I get a third spot. Is Zarlitos. Shout out to Toppy because Zarlitos in National City, they've been, for
Is
years,
that
for
place
decades.
with the fries that are Filipino themed?
No.
No, that's Hunter's Home Kitchen.
Oh, okay, never mind.
The carne asada fries, lumpia though.
That or MJ.
Shout
Are you
out
talking
to
about
them.
MJs, yeah, I heard
You're
that.
talking
Was
about
it MJs?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
MGs are good.
Yeah. Oh, MJ, we love you guys too.
Zarlitos is a
Zarlitos is
restaurant
good,
open
too.
till like what, 3, 4?
Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
like all you young people. It's for like the after club folks.
I don't
We
know
used
what
to
that's
be
like.
there.
What is that life like?
We used to be there.
I'm in bed by 10.
Right. 9 o'clock. 10. That's kind of late, bro.
Well, thank you. Where can folks find you or like reach out to you on the like social media or whatnot if they have questions or want to get organized in San Diego?
Made in Paradise Hills is one. Pillars of the Community. And just search that on
online.
Instagram.
Sorry. I'll just search on
Yeah.
Instagram. Okay.
Pillar, POTC for Pillars of the Community.
Yes.
Made in Paradise Hills. Project Rio.
Asian Solidarity Collective.
APICA for me, APICA, APICA of California.
Awesome.
That'll reach us.
And I don't follow people I don't know, but I'm at reloaded 2 underscores.
I'm going to follow you.
You're
right
under
now.
review. I have like 180 people like pending. I'm like, I don't know.
I just made my other
don't
IG
know.
public. It scares me sometimes.
Will you accept us?
I'll accept you.
right.
Just send me a message. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
being
For
here.
Having
Thank you.
us. Thank you.
Ever wonder how someone can send you a cup of coffee through the air? What? I love coffee.
I love coffee
And
too.
I know Mike loves coffee.
A little bit.
Joe.
I don't drink coffee. I just like the taste.
Just the taste.
Well, if you've ever thought about sending This Filipino American Life a virtual cup of coffee, there's a website new to us called Ko-fi, ko-fi.com. Go to Ko-fi at / This Filipino American Life. Again, that's ko-fi.com / This Filipino American Life, and buy us a cup of coffee.
How much is a cup of coffee?
I don't know, like $3.
What?
Fancy pants.
I don't know. I heard some good cups of coffee cost like around $1 million.
This is true. If you ever want to virtually buy us $1 million cup of coffee, feel free. This is another way for you to contribute to This Filipino American Life. Buy us a virtual cup and keep listening to our podcast. Thanks.
And we're back.
What?
Welcome back.
Wow. Welcome.
We appear again.
We're all we
disappeared. Then we appear.
And we multiplied.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Who's that?
Who's that? Who's that?
Who got here?
Who's here? Who's here?
Who's here?
Who's that? Who's that?
That means introduce yourself.
Sorry, I'm still getting used to this whole TFAL lingo. It's Girly.
Yay! Yay.
I love hearing jokes.
See Mrs. Third Ring.
Oh, Joseph.
You have to listen to an older episode to get that. But I think they got it. Welcome back to This Filipino American Life. We're still here in San Diego.
Still in sunny San Diego. San Diego.
Specifically the campus of University of San Diego.
The
Toreros.
Toreros. I had it too.
The Dominicans.
And today we have our guest. It is Czar Javier.
What?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yay.
Yay!
My 15-month-old daughter here eating a cookie. And my 6-year-old.
Hi. Say hi.
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 What are your names?
Ella.
And this is Olivia.
Olivia.
She'll probably respond to, huh? What the sound of a gorilla? Huh? No?
What does the bear say?
What's the bear say, Livy?
She's like, I'm busy eating a cookie.
She's not
What does
having
the
it.
cookie say?
This is a trip, man, because before when we used to do interviews, it was just me, myself, and probably some of the crew members. Now I got my 2 daughters and my wife.
Right on.
So it's just like a totally different feeling. Look, I feel so much older. Damn. Can I get a shot?
So do we.
I mean, you do. You have a double shot of espresso.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But I appreciate you guys having me. Super honored to be here and humbled, so thank you.
Nice, thank you. And if you don't know Czar Javier, he is the founder, CEO of Kampeon Company.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
Kampeon, correct?
Kampeon. Kampeon Co. Kampeon.
Kampeon.
Either way works,
Yeah.
right? Or some people still refer to us as Pinoy App
Yeah.
from way back in the days, which I still love. So, and Pinoy App is just the umbrella company, and Kampeon is the subcategory that we started a few years back.
I'm glad you're clarifying this
Yes.
because I've known you
Yes.
as Pinoy Apparel.
Yes.
And I have at least one T-shirt, the No History, No Self one.
The blue one?
It's black and it had like the Bata on Death March.
Oh yeah,
That one.
Yeah,
And I had
The one with the flags,
with
right?
the flags, and I have the hoodie with the different Ks.
the K flag.
Yes.
Yeah. And we also have the gun one, right? The
Oh, we have the
yeah.
gun one.
That's more than one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I can't count.
One of the gun one.
One of the gun ones.
Yeah, that's dope.
So Pinoy Apparel, like you started that way back in the day, right? Back in the 90s.
Yeah, actually, we started in 1999. Well, I started in 1999. It was actually a little fluke. I was drawing a piece of paper one night after I argued with my ex-girlfriend, and I drew down Pinoy, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll make this into a T-shirt. And then the next day, I told my mom, I'm going to take my my money. To go a little bit back, I used to sell knives. I used to sell Cutco. Anybody else sell Cutco? Know about
I had
it?
a friend who sold Cutco.
Yeah, I killed it, man. I enjoyed that job. It was probably one of my highlight things I ever done. I learned a lot.
That's awesome.
But whatever I earned that summer, I took it and I started Pinoy App.
Nice.
And I told my mom, like, hey, you know what? Instead of buying rims for my Eclipse, I'm going to start a business. So I still remember there were 17-inch Momos chrome, and I was like, dude, I want these so bad.
Such like a late 90s,
Yeah.
early 2000
Right?
whole sentence.
And we're all like, yep. We're all nodding our heads like, yep.
I know
yep.
exactly what those rims look like. You should have got them. But those were what I drove for, right? I that's what I aimed for, was just those rims. But after you earn that money, you're like, you know what? I worked my butt off for that. And so I reinvested in started Pinoy Apparel. Nice. And I told my mom this is what I was going to do. And she was like, okay, go for it. The next day, she had no idea what I started. I bought a sewing machine. The next day, her whole entire kitchen was with fabric and thread and everything
She's like,
else.
that's not Cutco.
Yeah. She was like, wait a minute, I thought you said you were doing shirts. So to go way back, the first item we ever came out was a tackle twill baseball jersey, full button up, and we sewed it ourselves. Well, the first one, we hired someone to sew it, and it was super expensive. So I kind of finagled and told the lady, like, hey, let me help you out. Let me help out production so we could expedite stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up learning the whole process.
And did it yourself?
Yeah, and I ended up doing it myself. I was
So
like,
awesome.
You're so expensive, man. I was like, dude, I'm going to learn this all by myself. So we ended up cutting everything, sewing everything. It was hard.
Wow, so you learned how to do the pattern making and all of that.
Yeah. So, I'm a man not afraid to admit I know how to sew.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They're bringing back Project Runway.
I know.
You should audition
No, I
for
will
this
not. No, I will not.
Well, My dad actually, he was the one who taught me how to sew, even though my mom
That's
also
dope.
was a seamstress.
Yeah, it's a
kinda
trip
weird.
too. I even sewed Ella's costume a few years back. It was Boo from Monsters Inc.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it was so dope, man. I was like, damn, he actually came out good. What's that? Yeah, and she wore it to Disneyland too. Right on.
I know how to sew too.
There you go.
Yeah, I saw that girl over there. I saw the computer over
gosh.
there.
Yeah.
High five,
Daddy
Joe.
jokes.
Yes. So after all the sewing, it was just taxing. You know, it took a lot of time out of us, and so we decided to do screen printing, and it was so much faster. And then from there, it just started growing, and then we got invited to an event out in New Jersey. And we were brought out by Pinoy Power, if you guys remember them.
Yes,
PinoyPower.com.
I remember them.
Yeah, they were actually a forefront in all the social media because they were like in parallel to Asian Avenue.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so dating us, right? It's almost saying like Angel Fire. But
Tripod. I have a tripod.
right?
Or GeoCities.
Or even Jeepney, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But they were so ahead of their times, and they were this like super cool technical company coming out and trying to do this community thing for our culture. It didn't work out. It was the part of the boom and the bust and the boom era. And everybody was getting money. They were blowing money, blah, blah. But they brought us over there to New Jersey. And this is when I really got my eye open to what we could potentially do in the future. And I remember we only had one shirt we brought out. It was a collaboration between Pinoy Power and us. And I remember it was just a little carve out and it said Pinoy Power on the top, but we spelled the PNOY how we spelled our company. And it did well, but at the same time, we saw other companies at the time. I think it was Travel Pinoy, Downright Pinoy. I think those were the two main ones that I remember. But I remember being in that position. I was like, oh man, it sucks being here right now. No one's at my table.
Oh man,
I remember it.
Was this
too.
also like Team Naku or something at that time, right?
But
That's
they
a
were at the
little
same time.
after.
Yeah, a little bit after, but yeah, they followed. But I was like, man, this sucks. I'm here by myself. No one's at my booth or my table. And Pops from Downright was sitting next to me. We were just chatting. So at least that was like the good part. But what I took away from that, I was like, you know what, I got to change stuff up. And
It can't just be a shirt.
it just can't be a shirt or one shirt, right?
Yeah.
And so we redeveloped the company and whatnot. It was our DNA has always been about talking about our culture and repackaging it for our youth to understand it in a way that they can interpret it right, which is t-shirts.
Yeah.
And trying to do it in an aesthetically pleasing design, you know, and to be relevant in our youth's attire.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
and,
streetwear.
yeah, you know, and we always profess like, hey, it's part of your outfit. It's not just one piece; it's part of your outfit. So we wanted to complement, especially during the times, your shoes, your jacket, or whatnot.
Yeah.
But from that moment on, I was like, you know, we got to change how we do things and change how we do our presentation at shows or whatnot, our customer service, everything. And over time, like, we got really busy. Then my childhood friends became my business partners, and we're still business partners, which is probably an anomaly today, right?
Yeah.
So which is dope. We've grown up together a lot, and during the early years of Pinoy, we just had a great time, man. It was so much fun. We traveled to different cities and different groups and events, and we just sold our shirts and had a great time.
Yeah.
What was some of the most successful, I guess, festivals to go to?
Oh, hands down, New York.
Really?
New York is still today one of our best shows we've ever done.
But
Wow.
even with the like revenue or the cost of overhead of going out there.
Yeah, it was so amazing. The first year we went, we were amazed. We didn't know what to expect. I think it was in 2004 maybe. We had no idea what to expect, what the crowd was. We didn't even unbox our stuff and people were hounding us. Wow. We're like, dang, this is cool.
Like they follow you and knew like who you were, so they were like, "We want this already."
I don't know. You know, we were just like, our
That's
boots
it's
packed.
pre-social media.
Yeah,
right?
because there was not much social media at the time. And we're-
Friendster, gosh,
MySpace.
Yeah, but we made New York a routine. It was our go-to every year. We did sprinkled every like friendship games, FPAC, little shows here and there. We'll pick out the shows we'd like to go to,
But
especially if
New York was the one.
New York was the one we always especially down the line, we thought of things to come out with to release it in New York. And then New York was so dope. We ended up doing, Shirt the Kids out there too. I don't know if you guys remember our Shirt the Kids program.
Yes. Can you explain it?
Yeah, Shirt the Kids actually was our way to give back to the kids in the Philippines. We created a character called Sammy the Sunshine, which was just the Philippine sun with hands and a smile.
I have the LA one of that.
Yeah, and we made different versions of him. And, every time you bought a Sammy the Sunshine shirt, we gave one to a kid in the Philippines. And I remember the first year in 2008, we went back to the Philippines and we dropped out like 500. And I only went there for 4 days too. So we went there, we chose the Philippine Children's Fund as our proxy. They gathered all these kids from different villages and came out, and they did it like I didn't expect anything.
Did it like a show or something, right?
Yeah, they had like a stage and everything. They had a banner. I was like, wow.
I was just gonna drop off this box of shirts.
Yeah, they had like.
But now there's a party.
Yeah, there's a party. They had kids caravan from different areas. And I was like, dude, this is dope.
Did you print them over there in the Philippines?
No, we printed it here. We were trying to do a lot of things to be able to give back to the Philippines too, but we couldn't make it. And the time frame and everything else. There was a lot of things at that time. We were planning Shirt the Kids, the first ever Shirt the Kids event in San Diego. So it paralleled that. What we wanted to do is show everybody that this was real. So we went to the Philippines, dropped off the shirts that we all gathered the money in, took videos, and at the Shirt the Kids SDSU at San Diego State, we showed a video of us dropping it off. And it was so dope.
It made it real for
made it
them.
real. We wanted people to realize, like, yo, this is a real thing, right? Yeah. And so we went there. That's how we did it. And we ended up doing more Shirt the Kids events because it was dope. We were getting a lot of, response and a lot of positive feedback. We did shows in San Diego, Las Vegas, LA, Seattle, New York a few times. And going back to New York, the New York Independence Day Parade, we did a Friday Shirt the Kids event in New Jersey. Dude, when we got out there, the line was around the building already, which was so dope. It was sold out. And the next day, the following day, and we had no sleep either. I mean, we stayed up till 4.
That's what Red Bull's for.
Yeah, we drank a lot of Red Bull, and I still drink a lot of Red Bull today. But the next day, we ended up preparing for Shirt the Kids New York. It was more of a hip hop version. We had Bam, Kiwi, Gio come out and perform. We did that Saturday night. Then we didn't sleep, and then we ended up doing the Philippine Independence Parade the next day with no sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was so much fun. In New York, holds a special place for us, especially for me. That's where I met my wife.
Oh.
Yeah, so she ended up going to one of our events and suckered her into dancing with me.
You're like, check out this shirt.
You want to buy a shirt first?
It's gonna go to the kid in the Philippines.
Why was New York so big?
I don't know. I think what it was because they had different pockets of Filipinos in different areas in New York. So when they had like a big gathering, everybody would come from the different boroughs, different areas. And Ree could probably testify to that too, where in Southern California, we're a little bit more dense, right? And they see stuff like this more often. So in New York and the East Coast, they're like, oh, shoot, you guys got some pretty dope stuff.
So if you're saying if we went to New York,
you guys
would get like mobbed?
I don't know.
A good way and a bad way. Yeah, but
we might get mobbed. He said in a bad way.
In a good way. In a good way and a bad way. But New York had a lot of love. New Jersey, when we went online, we started doing a lot of online stuff. New York and New Jersey specifically, like countered California, all of California.
Wow.
Our sales were like, how did New Jersey parallel California?
Yeah.
But it did.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really dope. And over time, since we don't do New York any longer, we actually don't do any more shows. But we've noticed California spike up a lot more over New York, New Jersey, and the East Coast. Yeah. But we get a lot more international sales now too. So,
wow,
which is weird.
nice.
Yeah. But we're actually still just humbled and happy that people still buy our stuff today. I mean, our latest release, we had the conversation to talk about what we're doing next, and it turns out next year is our 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Are you gonna have a party?
No.
You should.
I go to bed at 6 p.m.
We'll do it at brunch.
We'll do it at brunch.
We'll
there
do
you
a
go.
day drinking party.
Actually, you know what? We did think about it. We're thinking about doing some special things. A lot of the special things we
You
want
want
to
to do a TFAL special thing? I mean, you're just throwing
You
it
know
out
what?
there.
We might as well do some great stuff. I mean, it's our 20-year anniversary, and that says a lot, right? And I would like to say thank you to everybody who's ever supported us, bought a T-shirt, came to their booth, even just to say hi, to talk to us. I mean, we wouldn't be here without those people, regardless of what shirts we made, right? I mean, they're the ones who kept us alive, even through the economic times, you know, when it really hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And we felt it. You know, we even changed our business strategy because of it. But we're still here. We're still doing stuff. I mean, it's not easy. But we're here and we enjoy what we do. And really it's for, you know, trying to show something to our girls that could be done, you know, being a role model for them. We did a pop-up shop at our house, our personal home, a few years back. And we opened it up as a customer side, thank you to all of them and told them to come through. And they were the first to actually get the first dabs at getting the collection before going online. And to be honest, and we were looking at the numbers, we had Grub Life come by to cater it. We had a drink caterer by us. And the 3 hours, you opened it up for 3 hours, only from 5 to 8. It was probably the best 3 hours we've ever had, show wide, ever the years we've been around.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. We were like, I was inebriated by the end of the evening, of course. And I looked at our numbers. I was like, no, that's not real. It's not real.
You're like, I'm going to go to bed and I'll wake up. And
It was still the same. I was like, what? That was pretty cool. And then when we released online, it was actually followed up and it trickled over to being our best online release. I was like, wow, that's so dope, man. And, you know, and I guess, you know, that's all the people that support us, and we wouldn't be here at all. So for our 20-year anniversary, we're going to come up, we're going to release a lot of the things that we've never did. Right?
What does that mean?
That could be a lot of things.
I know.
There's
What
a
is
lot of
that?
things. And we're also going to bring back stuff that people have requested.
Like the flag jacket?
Dang.
Because
Maybe.
no lie.
I don't know.
That's the one with the
You gotta stay tuned.
Gregorio del Pilar flag, right?
The Revolt flag, right?
Yeah, because to this day, I regret not buying that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember seeing it and then going, "That's $120, Elaine. You don't have $120 right now.
Yeah.
You need to walk away." Even though in my heart, I was like, "I should have just bought that."
Investment.
It is.
And then I didn't buy it.
Look how sad you are
And
right
it was
now.
sold out.
I know, and you're still
And you're still
thinking
talking about it.
Still talking about it, because to this day I was just like, damn it, Mike, why didn't you buy it? You're the one who spends $120 on jackets.
I was wearing bags that day.
So that's the jacket that has one of the
Yes.
Katipunan flags.
Actually,
on it, right?
it's the Revolt flag was actually 4 Filipino flags in one,
Okay.
and that's why it's not your traditional classic red, blue, and navy, right? Oh, red, blue, red, blue, white, and gold.
Yeah.
So we flipped it. We made our own flag, and we called it the Revolt flag. And to answer your question, we might be bringing it back.
Okay, just to answer your question, I
We
might
might
be purchasing
We
that.
might be bringing it back. We
So you're
might.
gonna reserve 5 of them.
There you go.
And I just place a hold on.
Yeah, and I think that the first time we released the Revolt, I think we made like 300, and they sold out.
No, I do. I remember that because I heard that line, and it's like, Elaine, there's only 300 of them. You should buy this. And you know, my wallet was like, you
Lay away,
can't do
dude.
this.
So we talked about earlier, you know, the first Filipino kind of t-shirt companies I remember seeing was those Filipino strength ones, the one
In Hawaii.
from
Yeah.
Hawaii,
Yeah.
right? And then you talked about like
Downright.
Chavo Pinoy, Downright
Downright.
Pinoy, and then I remember there's Philly Islander, and there's been some new ones that kind of come, and some have unfortunately have stopped selling. What do you think is your secret sauce to last like almost 20 years?
I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean,
Well, obviously it's the, you know, dope designs and everything, but
Yeah.
I personally think it's the designs.
yeah.
Because I come back and I'm like, I wish I bought that.
Yeah, you're still
lot of the
thinking about it.
Well, a lot of the things I do, I can see it too late, and then I'm like, there's no more of the size I want, and it's sold out.
Yeah.
And so I get bummed, but at the same time, I'm like, good for them. Like,
Yeah.
it's sold out. Like,
Yeah.
it should sell out.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see.
Well,
Yeah.
I think also like the rise and fall of like streetwear in general is
Yeah.
like it went from this place where like people were trying to come up with unique and new voices in terms of style, and then somewhere along the line everything got very kind of like generic and like I'm just going to print a bunch of words on the shirt,
Yeah.
or I'm going to have a whole like Kanye line that's just like a bunch of beige color. Like it hasn't like if you look at Pinoy Apparel stuff like in around that time, like nothing else looked like like that. And that's why you still remember this stuff.
Yeah.
It's
you know,
fashion forward.
Stuff, you know, I still remember certain like Stussy designs from back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's the things that like were so different, but like just ready for that time. And the other thing I would say maybe is because like a lot of those folks that we knew that were doing this stuff ended up finding different day jobs, and just it's hard to sustain, I think, in the retail space. And be a designer and be creative and still like raise a family and things like that. So you know,
I think it's just putting in the work too, right? And not just putting stuff that's just generic. You know, like our last collection, we professed like, you know, we made a promise way back in the days when we first started, we'll never do a Sun and Star shirt. You know, even though that was like an easy sell, make a ton of money left and right. You know, we never done it. And we did our own version just recently. I don't know if you guys saw.
Yes, I saw it with the different provinces.
Yeah, it was just deconstructed.
Yes.
You know, we wanted to be able to be aesthetic pleasing to the eye and to be more of a conversation piece, which is the real reason what we do, the way that we do our designs. We almost want it to be encrypted, right? So we want you to be, when you see something, be like, oh, that's a dope design. What does that mean? Right? And then the person who's wearing it hopefully gets the knowledge of what, when they bought it, and say, oh yeah, this design means this and that. And then from there, that's our old school social media, right? You know, word of mouth. And I think a lot of the, and we see a lot of our customers come back a lot. You know, when we get our orders, we see a ton of them coming back. We recognize names. I'm like, dude, that's awesome, man. And I really think it's us taking our time. We don't have a specific date or release time for anything. We do when we want to do it. And as we grow older too, our design or our, what we wear changes, right? And we change up with the time as well. Right. Also knowing that we have a lot of youth as well, right? So we cater to that at the same time. But at the end of the day, we really design stuff that we want to wear. And if it sells, it sells. And we hope keeping that mindset carries over to our customers and whatnot. And so far it has. And one thing too is a lot of our customers have become like family. Like dope family, man. Like a few years back, we met an Instagram user by the name of Papa Danger, and I followed him because he had a daughter. And she ended up having a very rare form of cancer. We followed them, right? And it was just heartbreaking. We built a relationship. And then she slowly passed away, and it was heartbreaking. But we got connected via his Instagram account, his daughter. But it turns out his entire friends and family were Pinoy app customers.
Wow. Nice.
You know, and they were like, yo, you could look us up, like, from your past orders. And I'm like, oh, shoot, there's John's name. You know, there's Ramon's name. I'm like, dude, we were already connected without even knowing we were connected, you know, and things like that. And like the artists that we met, like Bam, Gio, all of them, they're like all family, you know, even you guys, like I recognize your guys' faces and, you know, it feels like nothing's ever changed really, right? You know what I mean?
I did buy 3 things
apparently.
Right. Well, we've all been involved with like, you know, some of the festivals that you named too at one point.
Yeah. And so I think, I'm just humbled by it. We're still around. You know, and we're excited for what the next year presents to us, for what we can offer our customers and our client base. I think in 2006, we came up with a really funny idea. I think we were super inebriated. Actually, I was. But I blurted out while we were drinking. Everybody just stopped laughing and stopped.
Like, get to work.
We were all just like, I ran inside the house and wrote it down before I forgot. And I went downstairs the next day. I was like, oh, shoot, that is a good idea. And from that moment on, I think we titled it The Greatest Dumbest Idea. Right? And we attempted to do it a few times and it failed. We got really screwed one time. We lost a lot of money on it. So we never did it. We revisited it again, failed. But I think this year, 2020 or 2019 is going to be the year that we actually.
I'm all excited.
I know. What is
really
this?
When you find out about it, it makes so much sense too. You're like, Dad, when they came out, you can only imagine like what our thought process was like. Oh shoot, this could work. You know? Oh my goodness. So we're still in the process of creating it. That's just how. I won't say advanced, but technical it can be. You know what I mean? So you guys be really surprised what it turns out to be.
And I like it. You don't do any spoof shirts.
Yeah.
Because so many companies. I was gonna say the same thing.
Like so many spoof shirts, and
Yeah.
some
That's
of them
what
are
we
good.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what kind of what we did.
So-
you mean our Dodgers?
Can you take off that spoof shirt? Just joking.
Some
Talk
are
about
really
John
good.
Castro.
Some are really good, but I know like certain T-shirt companies, like that's all they do.
Yeah.
Right, and then they eventually
Disappeared.
disappear. They're not in business anymore.
Yeah.
I remember one time. This is at the Festival of Philippine Arts and Culture. There was a spoof shirt that said it was in the Ford Motor Company.
Yeah.
It said,
have you driven? Have you?
Instead of Ford, it said Filipina.
Yeah.
And it said like, have you ridden one lately?
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
yeah,
I remember
it
that
well. And it
very
caused-
distinctly.
and it caused such a like a ruckus. During the festival, people were protesting and everything like that. But
Oh yeah, there was an action at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Oh, the years when they had actions at like FPAC.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's a spoof
That's what
shirt gone
yeah.
wrong.
Yes. I appreciate that you never kind of do kind of simple designs and you really put a lot of thought and really do research and history in your designs, which I really appreciate.
Thank you. And then, and again, that's a testimony to all our customers, what they like and what they want, and also our team too. My boy Jeff, that he can't be here today, but he's one of our main printers. He's got a really strong design background too. He's been on the team since day one. Our other friend, Boy, we just lost him. He passed away a few months ago. So he was handling a lot of our inventory and ordering and whatnot. So it was really hard to lose him. And we also have my brother-in-law, Jeffrey, who's taking care of all the orders now and inventory and whatnot. But it's still hard to kind of like do things without... We named him Boy because our group didn't have a boy. But it's kind of hard to move on without him in our group. But we also made a promise that we won't let it fail for him. So we envision it to be do some amazing things, guys. We could move forward, and then we're really looking forward to what we want to do in 2019. It's gonna be super exciting. Hopefully you guys feel like it's exciting too.
I mean, I'm very excited. The potential.
Get ready, Elaine.
Revolt jacket. I need to squirrel away at least $200, $300.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Otherwise, you'll be talking for 10 years about not doing it.
I'm gonna come. We'll do an anniversary show. We'll play this clip and be like, "Damn, I should have bought that jacket."
Which jacket really gets a lot of? You guys should bring that back. It's a recent jacket too. It's that Ancestor jacket, the one with the MC. It's the military shirt with the Baja print on the back.
Yeah, I remember the jacket too.
Dude, we posted it just to like show what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, is this coming out today? Are you guys really realistic? We were like,
that's 10 years ago, bro.
No, it was just last year.
Oh.
And then people are still wanting it back. We're like, oh, you missed out. I'm sorry. We'll wait till down the line when we feel like it's appropriate. But I don't think it. A lot of the things we do, it's not money driven either. So like the Sun and Stars, we could have easily made a ton of money off of that. And then the moment in time where Manny Pacquiao started really creating a name for himself, we were doing Manny Pacquiao shirts prior to that. We actually even did a Manny Pacquiao shirt for Manny Pacquiao, and he approved the design. But once we start seeing people do the Manny Pacquiao shirt,
you're like, I'm done.
We're done.
Yeah.
We never did another Manny Pacquiao shirt after that.
It's probably a good call.
Yeah,
I think it's also kind of a testament to like what's fad and fashion, and like what's kind of there's the spoof and there's a cleverness of spoof, and then there's just like what Joe was saying about use thoughtful design. Just hands down, when you talked about kind of like you and a sewing machine, I was like, that's real, man, and I appreciate that. So I think there's a certain affinity for folks who put in the work, and totally shows if you've been around for however many years. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
I was just thinking, like, because with companies like Vintato and like what you're doing, like there's a craftsmanship there that is much appreciated in comparison to like just a straight T-shirt. And not to say that there's not craftsmanship in a T-shirt, but like there is craft in like a different type of piece of apparel. Yeah.
Well, and then just kind of outside the whole Philam sphere, there seems to be a lot of energy around living intentionally and people defining what that means for them. And I think, just kind of based on like the thoughtfulness that goes into your design and people finding relevance and connection through all of your pieces. I mean, I think that's one way for me, at least, that I am being more mindful about living intentionally and basically wearing my tribe.
Yeah. You know, when we get a lot of messages like that on social media and emails, and it's just heartwarming. You know, when we make stuff like this, we don't, anticipate any responses. You know, we just hope somebody buys something. They do, and we're lucky that they do. And it's even more fulfilling when someone responds with like, yo, this shirt really connects with me. You know, this means more than for me to be surrounded in non-Filipino environment and to be able to connect with the shirt that you provided. And for me to be able to say, you know what, I'm proud to be Filipino, which is dope, man. I'm like, wow. You know, and one of the questions you sent me an email about what's one of our controversial shirts. I really wanted to speak on this, and you brought up the shirt design was the K flag.
That was controversial?
Yeah, because remember the KKK in the back, which was the Katipunan?
Yeah.
I remember a girl sent me an email saying, hey, I wore your K flag shirt to school, and one of the teachers told me to take it off or turn it inside out. And she said no, and she explained the reasoning why. So the girl ended up getting suspended that day. Yeah, but she stood her ground. She said, you know what? I still stood my ground. I said no. Even though, it had to get kicked out for that day.
Wow.
Or suspended for X amount of days. She stood her ground and said, this is my culture. If you guys can't respect it, go ahead and do what you want with me. Yeah. Which was an awesome story.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
We heard a similar story in an earlier episode. We were interviewing the author of... the co-author of the book that Don Mabalon and
Gail Ramosanta.
She was saying how so the book is about Larry Itliong's life, and her daughter actually did kind of like a book report on it, a presentation in her class, and her teacher, who happened, I believe she was Mexican American, Latina, didn't know anything about Larry Leong, didn't know that he was part of the foundation of the grape strike. And so she was like, she was kind of in disbelief of the whole story and the whole report. So, I mean, just these stories that are coming out, like pieces that are helping us to really, talk about who we are and where we come from and what contributions we've made to this country. Like, I love that these are conversation starters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the fact now that teacher understands a little bit more. Yeah. And hopefully she went and did some more research. We're like,
right.
That's cool.
No history.
There you go.
Exactly. That's actually the tagline that I think is universal to all. I mean, because I continue to see that as a hashtag, regardless of whether it's Filipino
no matter what.
Related or not. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't coin it. We just,
You just put it on a really nicely designed shirt that I apparently bought.
he just
we have a few
elevated
in our home.
Just elevated it. It was right here. It was on level 1. He took it to level 10.
Maybe level 2, but
So why the change to Kampeon?
Well, we thought as we grew older, it was during that time where the economy was really doing really bad. When we were spending upwards of like $16,000 every season.
Oh, wow.
Just on t-shirt printing, not the t-shirt itself. So we're like, oh man, we got to change things up. Like we really looked into ourselves like, okay, if we really want to take this further and continue to be around, what could we do? So we ended up teaching ourselves how to screen print. We bought our own machines and we screen printed ourselves. And we decided, you know what, if we're going to make this change, let's kind of give ourselves a refresh too.
It's like a rebranding.
We'll say a reboot. Kind of a reboot with the same DNA. Our ideologies are the same. The DNA is still the same. But we just wanted to give ourselves a refresh to everything. Our structure, our business organization, our business plan kind of changed. We kind of wanted to change a little bit of everything. And Pinoy Apparel Company and Corporation is still the overarching company, but Kampeon was something we wanted to do. We wanted to do a little bit more charity work. And with all that and get into some other things, but it's time, resources. Then you have family. Yeah. We still want to stick to what we want to stick with, continue on with our programs that we have in place for now, and hopefully down the line as we grow, or even if we stay the way we are, we're happy with it, right? at the end of the day, it's really for these girls. And to show them that they have an option in life. I'm a big advocate of academics, but academics is an option only, right? If she could come out and be an entrepreneur at a high school and making good money, shoot, go for it, right? You could take that nest egg that we saved for you and reinvest it into your company, and it's funny I say that. She's actually even thinking about doing her own clothing line right now. So which is really dope, man. Yeah. And, we're playing around with names. She's already got some words and sayings that she wants to include. So, hopefully, but by the end of,
does she want to do a collabo with? We're open to it.
Yeah, she really knocks down everything I do. She's like, no, daddy, I want it like this, daddy. Can we use more pink, daddy? Can I see my logo again?
I mean, I'm not Disneyland. I would love to say, let's do a collabo with Disneyland.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but anything that would help her, mold her as she grows. This was what we want, So, I live for my girls, man. They're the best. As she shows me a nap.
So, kind of with the advent of social media, and also kind of this Filipino food movement, there's a lot more kind of recognition of Filipinos by non-Filipinos.
Yeah.
Have you seen a spike in sales or anything like that?
Non-Filipino sales? Or just in general from being known more, right? Or being aware of Filipinos? I think it was really, the spike really came when Manny Pacquiao came to the surface, right? Because prior to that, a lot of Filipinos, especially the younger ones, they didn't have an identity, right? They're like, oh, who do I look up? Filipinos didn't really have a role model prior to Manny Pacquiao. And then when Manny Pacquiao came around, started rolling through everybody, and then non-Filipinos were gravitating to him, Filipinos were like, oh, you like our little Filipino guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Filipino too.
Yeah.
And that's when it really picked up for us. Really. And then that's when a lot of other companies started blossoming as well. And even today, like, the way we do our stuff, we only do releases when we want to, and we do a certain amount of things. So I'd say yes and no. We don't really track it, but we should. But our sales have increased every single release, which is interesting. Yeah. So I think it's also coming up with more innovative things, bringing back the Revolt.
I'm just saying, if you want to make one.
I personally like Sammy, the LA
Sammy. Yeah.
He was cool.
That's one of my favorite shirts. I rock that a lot.
It means a lot to us, and I wish we could have done more with Shirt to Kids. It's doing Shirt to Kids was, man, a job on its own. And we never paid ourselves. Never. So that was the hardest part. And then as we grew and we did more events and people wanted to do more events, we tried to create a package so where people could take it and do it on their own, right? We created a step-by-step process on how you do a Shirt to Kids event. It just took a lot more work than we had anticipated. Maybe down the line in the future we could do something like that.
Especially because I think that model of like one-to-one is very popular. It's like there's a reason why Toms sell as much as they do. Because people are willing to spend apparently like $120 on booties because they know that they're going to give another pair to another kid. So
So unfortunately we have to wrap up. Where can people find you?
You can find us at www.kampeon.co or Kampeon.co on Instagram.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We follow you.
Oh, thanks, guys.
And next release is when?
We were aiming for December, but I don't think we're going to do it December.
Okay.
I think we're going to do a really nice collection for the first of FY19.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which might include... or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Keep us posted.
Keep us posted.
Yeah.
And
Refresh.
We'll keep watching. We'll keep watching.
And then the thing is, we don't advertise, only on Instagram.
That's
That's
awesome.
it.
All right.
And you have like 30,000 or something.
No, man.
more
We
than, right?
we only have like 8,000.
Well, still, just work on it.
Dude,
More
you know
than
what?
us.
You know what? For me, I'm like, dude, 8,000 people follow us. I'm like, wow.
I'm just
You
like,
got nothing else to do today? I was just joking, but I mean, I'm super honored that people still dig what we do, let alone follow us on Instagram. And like, we don't chase followers because it is what it is. We're just happy that it translates to sales and whatnot, and It's just a trip. I'm always tripped out.
If you want a model for the revolt, I mean, there's like Ryan right here. he could for sure.
I don't model.
He would be revolting.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you for having me.
This Filipino American Life is produced by Michael Nailat. Our intro and outro music is by Roger Habon, aka 10.4 Raj. Resident reality checker Girly Colado, legal advisor Rianne Fajardo, and graphic design by Vincent Collyer.